Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning from Chicago. Good afternoon, possibly good evening, depending on where you're joining me from. I am Carol C.C. Miller, your positive life strategist, peace activator, and global hugger, coming to you with another Let's Chat where we focus on embracing life and heightening our celebrations and lessening our sorrows through a positive focus. I'm going to have some ladies here joining me that I'll introduce in just a moment. You're probably familiar with them because they've joined me for other panels as well. But as you join us in comments, let us know where you're joining us from. And to share with the topic, if you have any questions about it, we're always open for comments and questions around the topic for the day. A couple of things that I like to say before I get started, especially if you're new to the Embrace Your Life chats, is one is I am not an absolutist. You will catch me saying the words always on occasion and maybe never, but it's a rare thing because there's 7 billion people on this planet. I can't begin to know what always is or never is for 7 billion people. So I personally work on the majority, and the majority of the time I'm focused on love, kindness, compassion, and peace. I work on my own personal practice to be in the 80 to 100%, and that's also what I work on with my coaching clients too, is to stay in that space. Fear visits me, frustration, anger, doubt, all of those
Mhm.
normal feelings that we go through as humans visit me, but because of my daily practices, I don't allow them to move in. They visit, I feel them, and I'm aware of them, and then I shift into feeling a little bit better. Sometimes it's seconds that changes, and sometimes it
Mhm.
takes a little longer for that experience to shift. But it is through my awareness that allows me to do that. And then, secondly, I'm a coach. I love supporting people in creating the life that they deserve and are worthy and want to live. I am not a counselor or a therapist. And sometimes you're going through something in your life that you may need counseling or therapy to help shift you through that. And I just want you to know that you are so worthy of living your best life, whether it's a good friend, a clergy member, a coach, a therapist, whoever you feel is going to be the best person to work with to live your best life. I highly encourage you to do so. But
Mhm.
today we're going to get into today's topic, and it is about peace because today is International Peace Day. And I thought I would give a little background on it because I knew it was International Peace Day, but I wasn't really sure how and why it started. But it is a United Nations sanctioned holiday, and it's observed on September 21st. It's dedicated to world peace and specifically the absence of war and violence. And it began in 1981.
Mhm.
And I also like to use the definition. So Merriam-Webster defines peace as a state of tranquility or quiet. Now I'm going to introduce my ladies, and even though International Peace Day is on the absence of war and violence, we're really going to be talking more about the absence of war and violence within ourselves and within
Mhm.
our own maybe family dynamics or personal dynamics. We're not going to go into a political discussion of peace. I suppose if there's a question about it, we might go there, but that's not what this conversation is about. It's about finding inner peace so you can move through whatever chaos is in your life with a little bit more grace and ease. So, Ellen and Giuliana, thank you for joining me. I'm so glad to have you. I'm going to ask Ellen's next to me here on my screen. It's Shawna. I'm missing Shawna. Hi, Shauna. Good to see you. So, Ellen, now you are still the first one, so I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself, and then just what is your definition? What does peace mean to you? And then you're going to pass the baton off to Shauna because she just took the next spot. So,
Hi, I am Ellen Elizabeth Jones. I'm a best-selling author, motivational speaker, soul intuitive, and messenger of love. And so, how do I define peace? I've been thinking on that, and I also looked it up on my phone as well because I like to see what the definition is because for me, that internal peace is and a oneness and a complete acceptance and love flowing in and out, the absence of chaos and noise. It is an alignment, an inner being that happens when I take the time and use the tools.
Yeah.
when I use the tools. It doesn't happen um, intuitively, always for me. Just this, a lot of, I have to quiet the noise on the
Mhm.
outside. But I'm
And
so glad to be here. So thank you for having us here to have these conversations that
I love having these
mm,
conversations, and
me
I
too.
mean, I enjoy doing the Facebook Lives. I do them Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, but when I have guests on, it just adds to it. So something comes up a little differently than I thought about it before, or so it's always interesting. Welcome, Katie. Kate, let us know where you're joining us from, and if you have any questions regarding peace, please join in on the conversation. Miss Shauna, how about you?
Hello, I'm happy to be here. I kind of snuck in on you, but I'm so happy to be here in this conversation, right? I think it's such an important one, right? So I feel like it's the peace that we can have for others and the peace that we can have within our hearts and the peace and the inner peace that we can have for ourselves. And then that could, that can amplify to others too, right? I feel like that peace and that calm and that love that we can send out, I feel like that's one of the most powerful things to send to people, right? That peace. And it could be as simple as a smile or just exuding that peace and that inner glow and joy that we could bring out to the world. It's a good thing.
I love that. And I would have to say it's not as much because with COVID, I'm not out in the world as much as normal. But like if I would be in traffic and I get frustrated or whatever, I would immediately, well, try to be immediate. I wouldn't say it's immediate all the time, but then I would remember that I have control over this. So I would start looking at other cars and I wouldn't say it, but in my head, I'm wishing them peace. Or the people walking down the street, I would look at them and wish them peace. So it's just sharing that energy exchange too. So thank you for that. And Juliana, how about you?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you. So, it's interesting because when I think of peace, as a little girl in church, there was a part in the Mass that we always offered each other a sign of peace. And so I lived in a pretty peaceful family and town. And so for me, it's interesting because a mentor of ours taught me that peace begins with me in my own heart. And it isn't something external, it begins with love in my own heart. Now, that doesn't mean that we're always peaceful because we're human and that ego comes up and we get into fear sometimes. And so, peace is absolutely the tranquility. Like, I remember over these last few years, I have a 23-year-old son, and if anybody disturbs my peace the most, um, he's the one that knows how to push all my buttons. And so, I'm constantly, when I'm out of alignment, like Ellen says, I just say, I just want peace. I need peace. And so it is something that I strive for each day, because if I don't feel it, if I don't have it, if I don't acquire it, then I'm not a good human. I feel depressed. And so for me, peace means so much. It also is, I know if it's in my heart, then I go out into the world and I do my best to be
Yeah.
a symbol of peace. And what does that mean? It might mean holding space right now for
Mhm.
someone who's sick, or lighting a candle like I just did before I came on. I'm getting all goosies. It's really going out there and emulating what does peace mean to you. It could mean going, to a peace rally. It means so many different things to me, but absolutely being an extension of love and going out and being, a high vibration, a high
Yeah.
somebody who's doing their best to be peace in the world, and then, sending that light out.
Well, and that's one of my things that I do each morning is I ask myself, who do I want to be today and how do I want to show up in the world? And, some days chaos is there, but I'm
Mm.
still choosing how I show up. And sometimes chaos wins for a while and then I go back into peace. But that was one of the founding things that I started Positive Focus with. And I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't know the quote exactly, but it was Mother Teresa saying, if you invite me to a anti-war rally, I will not come, but if you invite me to a pro peace rally, I'll be there. And it's really about both want the same thing. You know, the anti-war wants war to end, and the peace rally wants peace to be what's the main thing, but it's just a different energy that you bring to it. So I'm coming from what I want rather than dealing with what I don't want has worked far better for me. So
Right. That reminds me that I was taught to stand up for or stand up with, but not against, because what we resist persists and what we embrace will evolve. And so that removing that resistance.
yeah.
And what I wanted to share that I didn't mention earlier was that there was a certain prayer that I prayed daily that changed my whole being, and that was the prayer of St. Francis. It was, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, and it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is dying that we are born to eternal life. I said that prayer every day with such passion.
Mm.
I did not realize that I was truly asking to be an instrument, and that I was that I would be channeling later in my years. Just being that channel, letting that flow through us and to embody it. But that prayer was something that I still say often, but it was every day during the time when I was in chaos, and it absolutely changed my world.
I love that. And I have shifted that prayer into something that works better for me. And it's part of my morning blessings. And it's let me stand for love. In conflict, let me be peace. In tragedy, let me be hope. In darkness, let me be light. In grief, let me be comfort. So, and that's what I say each morning as I get the day started to remind me of what I do have control over, because it's so easy to focus on what you
Mhm.
don't have control over and get out of peace. But Ellen, or any of you ladies, Ellen brought up the point of, standing up for love rather than, the conflict. And I'm a million percent behind that. But I do think people get confused on what's standing up from a space of love. Like if you're in a situation where you have physical conflict going on and you're in danger is a different way of standing up for love than if you're standing in a different space. So, although there have been many peace activists who have been in danger and have been hurt, like John Lewis and things like that,
Mhm.
who still did not fight back. But I think it becomes for me, it's a personal choice at that point. If somebody is physically assaulting me, I'm probably going to fight back. I'm going to hopefully hold the space of love, but I'm also not going to sit there and be abused. I've not had it happen to me before, so I'm not sure how I would react in the moment. I do not know how John Lewis and all those people in his time did it, but it is possible. So, what are your thoughts about that?
So my instant, so we don't, I don't know how I'm ever going to um, react or respond in any given
Right.
circumstance or situation until I am in there. Uh, I don't know. I can also have a mama bear in me that is
Me too.
fierce, and it depends on the moment and it depends on the day. I too have been very fortunate that I have not been ever physically in a place where I was in danger. Um, and so I don't know that I can really fairly answer that, because standing up means, for me, it is about directing my focus. It's about directing my um, intention and attention. Where are my thoughts? Where are my actions aligning? And yet, my prayer each morning is to allow me to serve and be served. And so we never know how we're an answer to somebody's prayer that day. It could be a smile. It could just be some small act of kindness. That's standing up for. Um, but again, I don't know. I mean, this is something that you may not know about me, Carol, or any of you on here, is that I am really good at shooting a gun at the target. I am really good at it. The idea of I don't own my own gun. You don't want that. That's a personal choice. Um, and I just don't know, because I was asked the question in my training, because I was so afraid of guns. That was one of the things that I did to work through that. And I found out that I was a natural. I was a good shot. And it kept my husband on. He's like, "Whoa, okay." But the question that the trainer asked me was, would you be willing to use this because when you're using a gun, it's presumably to take someone's life or to injure them in some way. And I honestly couldn't answer that. I'm fine with a target. Something with a heartbeat, I don't think I could.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, don't know.
Yeah, without being in that actual
Mhm.
situation. But I think it's good to discuss that, because I do think people go into, when you talk about peace, well, what if this was happening? Are you going to be, and it's a situational thing. But for me, it really goes back to the more I choose internal peace. And one of my favorite mentors, and we just discussed him last night, Ellen. So is Wayne Dyer, and he was very, very much like been doing the work for 30, 40 years before transitioning. And he was still very selective on his energy. And he would talk about if his kids were fighting, sometimes he would leave the room because he didn't want to be in that energy. And sometimes he wouldn't. And then I've never read A Course in Miracles all the way through, but one of the passages that has stuck with me is, I'm in the room to heal the room. And so if you're physically able and know that you're strong enough in your energy, sometimes it's staying in the room and not yelling at people like, be nice and be kind. It's just, holding that space. And so I always kind of fluctuate between the two. It's like, do I need to leave this situation because I'm going to get angry with all the angry people? Or do I need to stay here and stay in the space of love and kindness and be that energy for that space too? So it's always it's awareness for me.
Mhm.
If I'm aware of how I feel, then I can make the adjustments from there.
It's about presence, right? It's about staying in that presence of love and compassion, and really coming from your heart and your inner peace, instead of reactionary, right? It's like, coming from that place of peace. And to me,
Yeah.
when we come from a place of peace, it's a place of calm and kind of like inner zen. When I think of peace, I think of a nice slow moving stream, or maybe there's like a bird that swoops down or something like that. It's like that calm. That calm is what I think of.
Yeah, I like that. And then I know that I would like to really talk about that inner peace kind of thing, but it's really for me, like, there is a lot of chaos in the world and there's a lot of beauty in the world.
Mhm.
So it's what you're going to focus on. And I can find myself focusing on things that I have no control over changing.
Mhm.
So the control I have is changing how I react and respond to it rather than
Yeah.
get furious and frustrated. And generally, if I'm getting angry about something, then I'm going into blame, shame, and complain. And I'm not even looking for solutions. I'm looking for, I can't believe they did this, or I did this, or whatever. And it takes me down a path of just staying in that energy rather than feeling the anger and seeing why it bubbled up and then moving forward to feeling a little bit better. So, what are some things that you guys do? Because as we've all kind of discussed, our goal is to be in peace the majority of the time. When you find yourself out of peace, what are some things that you do to get you back into that space of calm within you?
I go in
Well,
nature. Oh, sorry, Juliana, go ahead.
that's okay. Go ahead, Shawna.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say thank you. I go in nature and just touch a tree and just be present with nature, right? Or go for a walk or look at my fur babies that I have and kind of be in their presence, right? Because they're such good examples of peace animals are in nature, right? So that's what helps me. So
For me, I go to the divine. So I pulled us all cards today, if that's okay. And
Absolutely.
this is from Sunny Dawn Johnston's Multidimensional Oracle, and it's the Buddha. I chose this one. I didn't automatically get this one because I thought this is such a beautiful depiction of peace. I love the Buddha. Even though I was raised Catholic, the Buddha really gives me a lot of peace in my own heart. And it reminds me of, it says enlightenment on here, and I believe oneness, that, regardless of any religions, I think a lot of us would benefit from knowing that we're all part of one. And whatever that means to you, for me, that means that I'm a part of the divine. Each of us are individual expressions of God's infinite love. Don't get caught up on the God, whatever that God is of your understanding. Could be this very beautiful Buddha. And so I love this card. I mean, look at all the colors.
Yeah.
And he has his eyes closed. And to me, that means to go within. Again, the peace begins with me. And I am only one person. However, I possess the peace of God within me. I am love. I come from love and I return to love. That's what A Course in Miracles teaches. And so on my healing journey, I did do A Course in Miracles a couple of times. It's very in-depth, but it's
Very in-depth.
It is. It's you are the light of the world and you want to go out and be that light. You want to be peace. Am I always peace? Of course not. Like you said, dear Carol, there are times where we're going to get ungrounded. There's going to be people that are pushing our buttons. We might react rather than respond, even though we're getting to be better responders. And, I think it's intention. It's stating an intention each day. Peace is always one of mine. Am I always peace-filled? No, because there's times where even in the family right now, there's different situations in the world where people are so divided and you might feel very strong. And it's just to come back to, the realness of that we are human. We can feel what we're feeling and we can catch ourselves and then intend on peace again, whether that means pulling away from communities or people or news, and then reestablishing yourself as peace. And for me, it's always communion with the divine. It's like, I need you to help me be peace today because I'm not feeling very peaceful. I might be feeling scared or angry spiritual bypassing is not feeling this stuff. And we absolutely here, we've learned that we need to feel it to heal it. And so for me, I always commune with the divine because that's where the peace is. That's where true peace lies, in whatever way, shape, or form that you believe in God, universe, source, creator.
Well, and I love that you said, I have an echo for myself. I hope you guys can hear it. I'm a big believer in unconditional love, and like I can unconditionally love anyone. My conditions come with participation, and just like how you said, sometimes it's removing yourself from that community or stepping back from the community or whatever. So you can still love and wish them well, but sometimes you need to have that break or that complete disconnection in order to stay in a peaceful state of mind and in a loving space for them. So I'm a big believer in, like, my love has no conditions, but my participation in people's life has conditions.
Absolutely. And that's boundaries, right?
Yeah.
The boundaries that you establish for ourselves. Before I thought boundaries were you put a big caution tape. But it's more about as we're learning, because if I'm triggered, there's something that's calling me within that is asking for healing. A reaction is when I am wanting to justify and to be right. And that's my ego. That's a real red flag that my ego is very active, which for me is edging that divine out, edging God out. And it's part of the human experience. Like you said, we experience, we expand, we evolve. And for me, you said, what do you initially do when I feel a trigger within me? I'm where I am in the maturity level today is most days I know, I'm very aware that that's me. It may not really have anything because we are one. So people show up and they act away. There's something within me. Otherwise, it wouldn't even register.
Yeah.
And so having that awareness means for me, I need to step back. And for me, the first thing is just breath. Because if I'm in any kind of fight or flight, my central nervous system, it kind
Yeah.
of goes ring. And that breath, for me, the four squared breathing in for 4 seconds, holding for 4 seconds, exhaling for 4 seconds, and doing nothing for 4 seconds really can reset my central nervous system because I'm in fight or flight. And then I get to choose how to respond. When we respond, there's an invitation for healing to occur. And it may be, okay, right now, that's too overwhelming for me. I think I need to remove myself,
Hmm.
because the key thing for me is really to the best of my ability to do no harm.
I
I
like
fail at
that.
that. I know I fail at that. I know I have in the past, but in the present moment, that's where that awareness is.
Yeah.
How can I show up? How can I choose again? How can I choose love? And sometimes it is simply um, me going within and going, okay, and calling in help. Absolutely. For me, I call in all of my people,
Your team,
seen
come
and
talk to me,
unseen.
team. Exactly. Well, and I think I believe Shawna had mentioned earlier, it's like being able to have compassion as far as people that you completely disagree with or being around them triggers you. Like, I'm so word sensitive, I don't even like the word trigger, but I've yet to figure out a better word to use. But those people that get you into that space or take you out of peace, like I can still, when I step back and think about it, I can have compassion. Like I can maybe still a million% disagree with them, but their lived experience has put them to where they're at. And one of my favorite mentors, and he's not a personal development speaker. He works in justice in African American jails, and his name is Brian Stevenson. And I so admire his work. And he's talked about when he goes into jails and talks to different people. Some shouldn't be there, and that's the ones he's working on getting out. But he's like, some have done horrific things, and he's like, but once you hear their backstory, he's like, I
Mhm.
can still have mercy and compassion for them. They need to be there or, face the consequences of their horrific action. But when you stop and listen to the backstory of what they're so afraid of that has that, back and forth between you, you can find compassion for them. So compassion's a big one for me to remind myself of when I'm getting frustrated with somebody, like, why do you think this way or whatever?
Compassion is so huge. It's so important. And I like to come sometimes, kind of to piggyback on what Giuliana and Ellen, both what everybody's saying is sometimes it's good to take a step back. And one thing I've learned from SDJ, and I've really embraced it now, is sometimes take a step back and be the observer instead of the absorber. So take a moment to observe and soak it in and kind of see, where you're at and what part, what that is that it's inspiring or not inspiring in you, and take a look at that and find that peace within yourself and for that person or situation. And look at how cute Maxie is. See, that's an example of peace right there. Little
Right there,
Maxie
he
just sitting
is
there
little
with
Maxie.
Giuliana. I
Brings
love
me
it.
so much peace, Shauna.
He is peaceful.
So,
Yes.
And
may
I
I
think,
say, oh,
go ahead. Go ahead, Ellen.
just a quote that from, and again, from Mother Teresa, that if we have no peace, it's because we have forgotten that we belong to each other.
Yeah, I love that one. I just did my blog today
Mm-hmm.
on about 30 different quotes that I like on peace. So, and I'm a quote person, so it's easy for me to come up with a lot of different quotes that I love to use. But I think for me, because like injustice is a big trigger for me. But I realize the more that I get triggered in anger and frustration and how dare they,
Mhm.
I am feeding that energy. So when I'm able to stay in inner peace, that allows me to bring, well, what can I do to help this situation? And sometimes it's to get involved, sometimes it's to step back, but it's about what energy do you want to show up in a situation? And I'm a big believer in what I'm giving my attention to, I'm feeding. Does that mean that if I'm giving my attention to anger for a few moments, the rest of my day or life is going to be angry? No, it's a I'm going to say, hopefully I'll say the right word, cumulative effect
Mhm.
of it. So if I'm in the majority of the time in a peaceful, loving, kind state, I'm going to get more of that energy flowing back to me than the anger state. But I am aware of what I'm feeding, and I don't want to feed anger. I don't want to feed unworthiness and frustration. I do for a little bit on occasion, but I bring myself back to who do I want to be today and how do I want to show up in the world?
Right. And
Yeah,
that,
if we get really woo woo, as I'm looking at the Buddha card and I see the word enlightenment, and I'm thinking, enlightenment, when you think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration, it's at the top. And as humans, we strive to elevate our vibration. We've learned that in SDJ's community, and I do strive to do that each day. And, you know, it's interesting because I can hear in my head my team saying, remind people about all the monks that are praying in the Himalayas or wherever they are. They pray for world peace. They get into that state of enlightenment. And so we each can help support that by meditating or praying every day and setting that intention. And like you said, Carol, none of us are perfect. We're human. We're going to go out into the world. We're going to have days where someone is going to say something that makes us mad or whatever, sad, or in that shame, guilt, whatever it is. And it's recognizing that we don't have to stay in that we could have even a day, an hour, whatever it is that we feel unpeaceful, because let's face it, right now energies are tough. And I was telling my class the other day, what used to take me 5 minutes in the morning is taking me 2 hours now. And I'm not even exaggerating. Paula wakes me up at 5:30. Usually by 7:30, 8 o'clock, I'm ready to do the day. After my prayer, my meditation, my affirmations, my sharing posts, whatever it is, that filling up with positivity, laying with Maxie. And no word of a lie, even 2 years ago, it would only take me 5 minutes. And now it's taking me 2 hours. And I thought to myself, I'm so grateful that I get to, work at home, because if I had to be at a 9 to 5, I'd have to get up at 4 o'clock every day. And I know some of our friends who are mediums do that, but I don't function well at 4 a.m. So, but yeah, it's just being mindful of the energy that you bring, Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor. I don't know why I'm remembering all these things, but I think because it's important to recognize that each of us can do our part. And even if we don't think that we are, we're making a difference. And that's what means the most to me, is that, I don't need the external validation. God knows what I'm doing. God knows my heart. He knows my intentions. And even on those days where I might show up, and usually it's in my family where, the most wounded me shows up, because my inner little girl is still healing. And so it's amazing how your family, they're your greatest teachers, and they're the ones that are going to still be able to push those buttons, because they don't recognize the new you, and they keep wanting to bring up the old you. And
Yeah.
and it's an interesting place. And I think that's why I need the peace in the morning and the silence, because it's like to come back into my truth. What is my truth? Where is my peace? And it doesn't matter what they think. And even though that's a hard one to wrap your head around, Sunny teaches us that, what other people think of you, or even Dr. Dyer, right, is none of our business. However, as somebody that worried about what everybody thought about her, for me, it takes me a little bit of adjustment. And so I'm just very tender with myself during these times. It's, tapping into Buddha, tapping into each other. That's why I was so, grateful that we were going to be together today, and then learning it was International Peace Day, that we can make a difference in our own communities, and thinking and knowing that it is making a big change. And to me, that means everything. Well,
Yeah,
thank you.
I think that it's so important. And as far as tapping into that, like, I do believe, that we're responsible for how we take things, but we're also a very connected society. Like, we thrive on connection. We are not, again, I'm going to say the majority because I don't know 7 billion people. There could be people out there who truly thrive on being in solitude all the time. But generally speaking, even introverts and, we all still thrive on connection with others. So appreciating other people appreciating you is normal and good. It's when you have to have that outside validation that becomes the part where you really need to go within and see what you need. But I think it's normal for people to feel appreciated by others and to know that that's a connection that we have out there. So,
And
go
I
ahead,
just
Ellen.
want to mention, so when we talk about anger, and it's interesting because I had an issue with the word um, trigger as well. And so when you find that word, let me know, share it with me,
I
Carol.
will because I've been looking for it.
I know, and I've had conversations where we do share that the word sensitivity and that anger. Anger is like pouring gasoline on fear. It is fear under pressure. And there was an experience here recently whereby people very frustrated with COVID were yelling something, chanting. They just were chanting, um, "Forget COVID," but they weren't saying "forget." And I instantly went within, and I turned my attention to putting blessings onto it. Let's bless, because that anger fuels that energy,
Yeah, it
and
does.
so it's really important to to pay attention to what is creating that fear, and then taking responsibility. For me, it's about taking responsibility for my own,
Well,
conduct.
and the hurt underneath it. Like, I know for
Mhm.
myself, when I get angry, when I think about it, it's more hurt than anger, and it's just coming out that way. And I used to not think I got angry because I'm not a yeller. So to me, anger was yelling at people about things. And that's, I think I've yelled at like twice in my life where I was out of control, angry in that way. So I just never thought I was an angry person because I'm not a yeller, but I still have those feelings and emotions. I just do it differently. And mine is more in thought of what's going on rather than in the words of what's going on because again, I'm word sensitive, so I pay attention to what comes out of my mouth because I know what comes out of my mouth I'm giving life to for it to live. So,
And those thoughts, though, do create our thought.
oh, absolutely
I
they
was
do.
explaining to a client earlier today that she was questioning why she was waking up at 3 o'clock. I'm like, that is just a time when it's a little quieter. You don't have so
Yeah,
many people up, and there's not so many thought
distraction. Yeah,
forms out there, because our thoughts really do. It's not just our words; it's our thoughts that
right,
create our reality.
right, absolutely. And my thoughts do tend to come a lot more in the middle of the night. Just like, stop it, let me sleep.
Yeah.
So I know, Juliana, you mentioned a morning practice. Shauna and Ellen, do you have morning practices on starting your days to meet it with peace?
I I do have a practice that actually, with a group of people, we do um, an inspirational, usually about a 15-minute. There's a YouTube. We do it via Zoom, and it'll be typically on a motivational. Abraham Hicks, Wayne Dyer. We did today. We journal together gratitudes, what would make today great, and some affirmations. We also do an EFT tapping, and we call it a power hour. And so, EFT tapping, which is a emotional freedom technique to kind of reprogram that subconscious.
Yeah.
And then, which is being taught in a lot of counseling um, venues, as well as in our
Mhm.
school systems now.
Oh, good.
The EFT tapping. And then we do a meditation. We usually 10 to 15-minute uh, guided meditation. But that account, for me, it's been very wonderful to have that accountability. And we do the journaling together. We, take little breaks in between. But I wake up in the morning with gratitude, and then I also read from something the books change. I like a lot of the old authors like Florence Scovel Shinn and
Love her.
yes, I just reading, taking 10 or Ernest Holmes, just taking 10 minutes. Um, that starts my day before I pick up this and get connected to everything else. And so it's been a transition to not pick up this and engage, but to really start my day with creating my day.
I love it.
And so sometimes on the weekend, though, without that doing the Zoom, sometimes it doesn't look that pretty. But
So
I've grown in self discipline.
some of my morning practices start on my phone. So I'm connected to my phone 24/7. Shawna, how about you?
Oh my goodness, such beautiful stuff you are all sharing. See, I'm working on like modifying my morning routine to kind of have more succinct rhythm with it. But I always, wake up with a grateful heart, and I try to not look at my phone right away. And what I also do that's really important is I try to not rush out of bed, because there was a time before where I would just rush out of bed and I would feel like, okay, I'm up now. I have to rush out of bed. And now I just kind of allow myself to just kind of lay there and be in the moment, maybe cuddle up with my covers more and just, lay there for maybe like 5 or 10 minutes or whatever it is, and just be in that moment of
Yeah.
not having to rush. Because I feel like when we give ourselves more of that presence in the morning, that really is so much. Because when we rush, then that maybe allows our day to be rushed instead of more succinct and more in flow. So I feel like, since I've done that, it's helped really the flow of my day to not be so rushed. Be like, hey, you know what? Like, things are going to be what they are in timing, and it's okay. So just, yeah, to do
And
that.
and just what you said, Shauna, I change my morning practices up.
Mhm.
I don't I don't even have like every 3 months or whatever. It's just like all of a sudden I'm realizing I'm not necessarily doing them as much. So I'm like, okay, time to shift it up because I'm getting too much in autopilot with them. And everything in the back, all my sticky notes of either their affirmations or their bucket lists or their things that I'm working on, I shift that up every now and then too. And sometimes I take things off. It's like, okay, this affirmation is no longer working for me. So it's got to go. Or it's something that I'm working on that's either come to fruition or it's shifted that I don't want to do it that way anymore. So I remove it too. But I need that change to keep me engaged. So I think it's
Mm-hmm.
good to, some people like to have that exact same structure and practice daily and can do it for years and that works for them. But to keep
Right.
me engaged, I need to shift it up and change things around.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm like, okay, time for something new now. I like that change
Yeah.
too. That's good. Yeah.
I mean, I think for me, it helps me stay in awareness because it's easy to get into autopilot, and when we're in autopilot, life is living us. We are not living life. So, when I
Mm-hmm.
stay in appreciation, then I'm staying in awareness. When I stay in, that focus of what I want rather than what I don't want, I'm staying in awareness. But I also believe that energy is very contagious. And one of the examples I give is you could be in a big room, two tables, each table has 8 people at the table. You join one table and they're complaining about life and everything is awful. And you could go to that table in a pretty good state of mind. But if you stay there for very long, you're probably going to start talking about what isn't working in your life and what is awful in your life. You go to the same table, everybody's talking about what they appreciate and they're grateful for, and you come in with a bad mood, most likely you're going to see things that you appreciate. Not always. Like, again, 0 to 100 scale, if you're at the 0 to 20, that 80 to 100% aren't going to shift you. But if you're in a place that we tend to um, blend in with the energy that we're around. So that's something that I also pay attention to as to people if they're really focusing on what's not working. Because if you're focused on what's not working, you're not focusing on solutions to what's not working. There are a lot of things in the world that's not working, and there are things in my own life that I would like to change. But if I'm focusing on not liking it, I'm giving the not like the energy rather than, okay, this doesn't feel good. What will feel a little bit better, and how can I focus on that?
Right.
So,
Very
ladies,
good.
go ahead.
I was just going to say, you just made me think of something as you're talking, Carol. I'm like focused behind you at that beautiful grass and the beautiful tree that you have. And it's like sometimes if we shift our focus, like if we're like in our head so much, we can maybe look at like a picture of our favorite things, if that's like, animals or a tree or the ocean or whatever it is. We can shift our focus on that. Sometimes that can be just like a quick, like snap your finger kind of reset to kind of shift the focus back.
I think that's a great idea, and especially if you get into a space where you really can't shift, one of the things I'll do is either I choose peace, I choose peace, I choose peace, or I'll just start saying thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And several thank yous, I cannot stay in that space anymore. It's not like I'm saying thank you for this bad mood, but just saying thank you tends to be something that shifts me out of it. How about you, Juliana or Ellen? Anything
Well,
that
I
you
was
use
just
that shifts?
thinking, to bring peace into my life, I've had to release a lot of um, pages that I used to follow, teachers that, right now are on, oh my gosh, there's so many theories out there. I had to really sit in my heart with what's the life that I want to create for myself. And some people say, well, it's all unicorns and rainbows. No, it's not. I am
I wish
just
it was.
choosing,
That would be
right?
awesome.
I mean,
Come to my
Carol,
unicorn and
because
rainbow party.
you used to do pages that I help with now. And, when you're out there and you're helping social media and you need to be on social media, you want to choose those pages that you want to follow, those ones that are nurturing you. Like
Right.
this year, one of my words for myself is nurture. Nurture myself. Nurture me. What do I need? I am treating me like I'm being who I needed 20 years ago, and that I thought that it was external to me, and no, it's inside of me. I need to give me what I need. And so it's going within and finding that peace in different communities, in different people, in where I'm hanging out. And just because you might have followed a page 5 years ago, you might not want to follow it right now,
Right.
because people are polarized. And I choose to be neutral. I choose to do my best at being neutral. And there's some days where I'm very good. And then there's other days where I'm like, oh, I need to disengage. Like I just need
Yeah.
to totally unfollow, unfriend, and I need to do it for me. So absolutely, when I think of co-creating peace, it's cutting out the negativity, your perception of negativity, and it's not right or wrong. I used to think, oh, I can't do that, right? I can't unfriend that person. And now I see, like, people even did it for me, and I was like, well, why would they unfriend me, right? Because I'm spreading so much joy. But maybe people don't want that. They don't want that
Mm-hmm.
light shining in
It's
their
not even
face.
want. They're not ready for it. They're not in a place to welcome it in. And that's
So it's
okay.
both
That's where they're
sides,
at. Yeah.
right? And that's, attaining neutrality. I've never lived my life like that. And so this year that I intended that, it's been interesting. Um, it feels lonely at times and necessary,
Yeah.
because I know that as an empath and as a sensitive being, like I said, those 5 minutes in the morning are now taking me 2 hours, because I am holding space and because I am doing my best. And so it's just to evaluate yourself each day, and where do you want to put, where do you want to put your focus? Here in Canada, I mean, it's an interesting place to be right now. We had an election yesterday, this morning. It's just tough energy, because it's like one thing or the other. The vaccine exemption program went into effect on Monday, then the election yesterday. This morning, I'm tired. Like I was physically tired, and I thought, wow, it's an interesting time, and I'm glad that I have these tools and these amazing people such as
Yeah.
yourselves to tap into, because for me it's oxygen. It's what I need in order to like live in this day, because I can't think too far in the future, because then again I'm grounded and
Right.
I'm not filled with peace. And so, some people might resonate with that. It's just doing your best, you guys. That's all that we can do. And that's all that's expected of us from the divine, is to just do our best. And when we're feeling crazy, and I say that loosely, please forgive me if anybody gets offended, but there's days where I do feel like that. It's like, I can't hear angels. I can't hear you, God. There's too much noise. I don't know. Is this the right decision? Is this the right decision? Even though now I know that we have all these choices, and like we've learned, you might not like the choice, and it's still a choice. And when you hold space for other people, it's like you need to be the best you, or you need to pull away for a bit and fill yourself back up.
Yeah. Well, and to realize that even your best self, depending on, like, if you're feeling sick, your best self is going to be different than when you're feeling your best. So it's just about being your best in that moment. And like, we tend to be our worst enemy. So if you think about what you say to yourself, would you really say that to your best friends? Probably not. I mean, you're truthful with your best friends, but you're not going to call them the names that you're calling yourself on a daily practice. I mean, I say this several times. It's like I still get off of these lives on occasion. It's like, why did you say that? You should have said that. You stumbled on that word. Like, I'm focusing on what I didn't feel I did well, rather than focusing on my intention, which is to heighten celebrations and lessen sorrows. So it's interesting how we can easily be our own worst enemy. And if we can get into that inner peace within, then you can be in chaos around you, and it's not going to impact you as much. And then you're going to be able to stand in that space of bringing peace to that chaos, because there is chaos out there. We're not going to make chaos go away.
Absolutely.
No.
Every day it seems like there's something going on. And I've never, well, all of us, we've never lived through a pandemic, or at least I
Oh,
haven't.
I'm over 100. I just look very
No,
young.
you're not.
So, yeah.
I'm probably the oldest out of all of us.
I've been through 3 of them by now, so.
There's a lot of grace that can be offered. When I'm listening to you all share, it continues to remind me that, to thine own self be true. And, that differs. We can always choose again. We do have choices. And I'm so grateful that that we are one, and that chaos is actually part of the creation process.
Yeah.
And so it is how I choose to perceive it.
That's generally what creates change, is the chaos. If everything is going around just perfectly, what's the reason to change? And I love that you mentioned grace, because I think people tend to think that it's either good, bad, right, or wrong. And I can have grace and show up in compassion and still completely disagree with what you're thinking, saying, doing. But I'm not going to engage in joining that energy. Sometimes I do, but that's my work that I do, is to stay in a place of love, kindness, compassion, and peace the majority of the time.
We're all works in progress.
We sure are.
We're expanding, and I'm so grateful that I have you ladies, as well as the people that may be watching this, that we're not in this alone, that we don't have to do any of this alone.
Yeah.
We do our own inner work, but yet we don't have to do anything alone.
Yeah, I love that. So that leads to a great thing on, ladies, a closing comment on something as far as a tip for peace, or just a comment that you would like to make on International Peace Day.
I was going to say, take the time to find the peace that's outside of yourself and within yourself, and just to, take those moments to live in that graceful, peaceful heart, to just say, okay, what peace am I going to bring today to myself and to others in the world?
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to share this affirmation. I create peace within me, and I take that out into the world.
I love that. Say that one again. I create peace within me.
Yeah, I create peace within me, and I take that out into the world.
Beautiful. Miss Ellen?
I'm going to borrow yours, Jules. I love that. I just heard when I just asked what would be the message. It was let it be and give peace a chance. You know,
Yeah.
and before we come up swinging, breathe. Just take a breath.
I think that it's perfect because I wanted to add that all of our tips and ideas, it does not mean it's easy. It's been a daily practice for me for years, and I still get angry. I still step out of peace, but it is a practice that I do because I want to be that in the world and emulate that in the world. So even though we're giving you these ideas, please don't think it's like you try it once and you're going to have a peaceful existence. Perhaps I'm going to say the majority of people are going to require it to be a daily practice. Some people might be able to snap their fingers and use Giuliana's affirmation and turn everything around into a peaceful way of being. My guess is the majority of us need to keep being aware of how we want to feel in this world and how we want to show up in this world. And what you said, Ellen, I think breathing is such a good way to stop yourself because especially when you're getting into that frustration, like you're constricting your breathing. So not only do you need to truly breathe to recenter, but you're constricting your body from the oxygen it needs to make clearer and better decisions. So breath work is definitely one that is a you don't need tools to do it unless you're somebody who needs medical assistance to breathe. So you're able to do it anywhere, anytime. And I mean, EFT is an awesome thing, but you might feel like you look silly doing EFT around people who don't know what that is.
Right.
But breathing you can do, and nobody even
Yeah.
knows that you're trying to calm your own mind doing it. So
But you can also, if you are out and about, you can tap on your steering wheel. You can do all of these finger points,
we'll do an
different
EFT
movements.
talk, okay?
We
Ooh,
should.
Shall we do that?
That'd
'Cause
be amazing.
it is a great tool to use for sure. So we'll do one of those next. So
EF,
thank you.
oh
Go
wait,
ahead.
I have one thing. You guys just made me think. I'm so excited. So EFT is amazing, but you can hold your fingers like this. And then also too, so I just recently took an acupressure class for animals, but we learned acupressure for different points for ourselves. So your pericardium 8 is on the palm of your hand. So you take your middle finger and then you go where it goes down here on the palm of your hand, and that's your pericardium 8. And if you just kind of hold that point like that, that can kind of help to bring you back to center too,
Okay.
to, to bring that calm. So there you go.
It seems very awkward, but I'm sure it's a practice to do. So it certainly makes you pay attention for sure.
Right? It
So
does. Yeah.
yeah. So thank you very much, ladies. I know you're going to be back with me in a few weeks for our talk on the 5 love languages. It's October 5th. Tomorrow I am having a recent friend I met in a class that I took. Her name's Colleen Diana, and she has a process and a program to help you move through anxiety. It's something that worked for her, and now she teaches it. She has a university around advocating for mental wellness. And so we're going to be talking about how to move through anxiety tomorrow, or not tomorrow, Thursday. Wednesdays, I'm not here live. It's on Thursday. And then next week, I'll be back Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. And I don't know if that's still a month. That's still September. So I don't know who's visiting with me next week. It might just be yours truly, but it'll be conversations around heightening your celebrations and lessening your sorrows through a positive focus. So thank you for joining. If you have any comments or questions on topics you would like to see us talk about in the future, whether it's just me or a group, put them in comments and we will add that to the list as well. So thank you very much, ladies, for joining. I'm so happy that you're able to join on International Peace Day. It's probably my favorite day of the year because it's focused on peace. And remember, you have the opportunity to find peace within. It may seem like it's really far away from you, but if you start taking daily steps, little steps towards it, you're going to be able to find some inner peace that's going to help you maneuver and navigate your life a little bit with more grace and ease. And that's it for today. We will be back on Thursday, or I'll be back with another guest. And remember, you matter. You matter to me. You matter to the world. And most, most, most importantly, you matter to you. So have a peaceful day, and we'll talk soon. So long, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.